I know I'm making myself out to be a grandpa here, but I really have to say it. Back in my day, video games weren't so complex, specifically when you factor in money. I know you've probably heard this like a million times from a million different people, but I just remember back in the 90s or early 2000s, you paid the flat fee of, $40, $50, $60 for a game, and that was it. For better or for worse, I'm not saying it's all good. Yeah, when I was jumping my way through Super Mario 64, I always remember there were rumors that there was a Luigi skin in the game. There was not a $4 option to purchase a Luigi skin. All of this is just to say that video games have obviously changed a lot in the past decade or two. So much so that a lot of games, especially a lot of big multiplayer games, they now are of course centered around actually having money on the platform itself. And that can look like a lot of different things. You've obviously got like microtransactions in these online multiplayer games. That's probably the biggest way that this would happen. You've got V-Bucks in Fortnite. You've got like COD points or whatever they're called in Warzone. And depending on the person, at one time you may have hundreds of dollars in your account on that video game. And stuff like this is not going away anytime soon. Money moves around a lot and it's just not in the banks anymore. Similar to like cryptocurrency being a rising asset in the world. There's just overall online ecosystems that are within video games that have a lot of money in them. And yeah, as we go on in the future, it's just going to get more and more prevalent. Not just one, but multiple online ecosystems where there's just tons and tons of money. And that was actually the central focus of a brand new report that was actually released today, believe it or not, by the US government. Now, this is an independent agency in the US government called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. So they just released an article on their website. This article, or like I should call it, a report, because there was a bunch of research that went into it. This report is called Banking in Video Games and Virtual Worlds. So believe it or not, the US government is actually very concerned about this phenomenon. And according to this report, they're basically concerned for a lot of reasons. One of these reasons is that there can be such valuable assets within these video games. They cited one item in some video game to be $500,000, like in US currency, and I'm very curious actually what game and what item that is. But they also talked about inadequate customer support and security within these virtual environments, and that hacking can be a really big issue, which of course is a huge concern. Money can get stolen from these platforms from US citizens, and according to this report, the developers of these games and the moderators, they will do nothing about it. And the last thing they talked about that they are concerned about is that users' personal data, including their money, their bank account information, and even their real-world location, is oftentimes heavily monitored by these games, which I have to say is actually kind of funny. It's really hilarious to hear the US government say that they're concerned about somebody else spying on its citizens. Like, they're fine when they do it, but they just don't want anybody else to do it. So yeah, overall, according to this report, this whole situation, this whole phenomenon is dangerous, and they talked about the necessity of monitoring these games, and they basically urged the US government as a whole to sort of monitor this phenomenon and monitor these games and their security a lot more closely because of all of these financial risks. I don't know, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. Like I said, a big part of me kind of thinks that, I don't know, it's the US government. They might kind of just be thinking about how this whole situation is bad for them, not necessarily the average, typical US gamer and consumer. Similar to like the US government's opposition to cryptocurrency as a whole. They don't want money leaving US banks, and obviously this whole phenomenon is making that happen. But on the flip side, I do understand some of what they are saying. Some of these game platforms, the online ones, they can get hacked. We see it a lot. So security can be a concern. And yeah, of course, a lot of these platforms do monitor data. They track users sometimes. But I don't know, like I said, it's just kind of funny because the US government does that too. So I don't know, but whether or not the government likes it, which I know they don't, the future is, like I said, going more and more into these online ecosystems. And that includes putting US money in these virtual worlds. I think that most people probably knew that, but now we know that the US government definitely does not like this. I don't know, maybe they'll soon use this as a reason to restrict these online ecosystems. I guess we will eventually see.